What's up, everybody? Welcome to Catch, Hook, and Shoot. Today is Sunday, July 16th. Just finished up the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view last week, and I was kind of surprised. It was actually a decent show. I'm not going to say it was like a 5-star spectacular wrestling event, but it was, by recent standards, it was actually pretty good. I was actually impressed with the Samoa Joe Brock Lesnar match. I was impressed with Joe. Let me be a little more specific on that. Joe came out really dominant, attacking Brock before the bell, and actually dominated a majority of the match. What I didn't really like about it is, like I said, Joe pretty much dominated the match, and then you see Brock come back with 4 or 5 German suplexes and F5, and that's that. Really not liking how Brock is being made to look lately. Not even lately, just like the last couple of years. All he's doing is throwing German suplexes, which, I mean, obviously with his size and the way that he executes it, yes, it looks to be very effective, but I think it also makes him look very one-dimensional, when I think anybody who has followed Brock Lesnar's career knows that's not the case. The man's an NCAA Division I champion, WWE champion, UFC champion. The guy is capable of so much more than just throwing a few German suplexes and an F5 and ending a match. Don't get me wrong, there are guys who have made very long careers using a suplex as their primary weapon. Look at guys like Taz, known as the human suplex machine, but he threw more than one type of suplex. So, I got no problem with Brock being a quote-unquote master of the suplex, but, throw in a belly-to-belly, throw in a gut wrench, throw in a T-bone, even a regular good old standing suplex every now and then. I think it just really makes him look like a one-dimensional champion and a one-dimensional wrestler, which is not the case. I think it does him a great disservice to just be using one move the entire match. But, I guess it is what it is. Brock's still the champion. I was really hoping Joe would come out of this one with the belt, but I guess WWE's not ready to pull the trigger on that one yet. They're probably going to ride this out as long as they can, see if they can stretch Brock all the way to WrestleMania to fight Roman again. And at that point, I'm sure Roman will be the Universal Champion, but time will tell. Another good match on the card, I think, actually, surprisingly enough, was Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman. I know a lot of people aren't real high on Roman Reigns. I'm actually starting to like him more. I never disliked him, but I wouldn't exactly say that I was a Roman Reigns fan. But I think this rivalry with Strowman is doing a lot for both of them. Their matches are consistently getting better every time. This ambulance match was brutal. I think Roman showed some more of that violent aggression that kind of came out when he had the rivalry with Triple H. And I think that's what Roman needs to do. He needs to be that just violent, aggressive, go in there and just beat the hell out of somebody. That works for him. That's what will get him over with the fans, I think, if they just see him let loose and go crazy on somebody, kind of like he did with Braun, throwing him in the back of the ambulance and then smashing it into a semi. That was unexpected, at least for me. So I thought it was a very good match. To me, that match actually stole the show for me. Excuse me. Another decent match on the show, a decent rivalry that I think they're carrying off pretty well, is Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks. Alexa is turning into she is a very, very good heel champion, taking the low road whenever she can, just to keep her title, trying to stir the pot as far as her opponents go, to get them fighting each other rather than focused on her. And of course that match ended in Alexa getting counted out. So, of course, Sasha won the match, but not the title. So, those three, for me, were probably the highlight of the pay-per-view. Also, of course, the 30-minute tag team Iron Man match with Sheamus and Cesaro against the Hardys. Of course, Sheamus and Cesaro came out on top in that one. It's looking like that rivalry is pretty much done. And I don't know if somebody at Raw watched the show last week, but, of course, the Raw this past Monday, last week I was talking about tag team wrestling, and we're not seeing these tag teams on TV like the Gallows and Anderson and the Revival, just to name a couple of them. And lo and behold, they come out Monday night and beat down the Hardys. So, it looks like maybe they're going to try to boost the tag team division a little bit because it sorely needs it right now. And of course, coming up next Sunday, the 23rd, is another WWE pay-per-view. This one is a SmackDown exclusive Battleground. Main event for this pay-per-view is Jinder Mahal and Randy Orton one more time for the World Championship in a Punjabi prison match. Kind of iffy on this match. I mean, there's only been 2 in the history of WWE. The idea of it, I think, is good, but I mean, maybe the last 2 just didn't work because of who was in them. I don't know. It's just the whole structure and apparatus of the thing. I would think in the arena it probably makes it very difficult for the fans to see what's going on in the ring just because of the 2 cages, and it's not like the regular chain link fence. It's the big bamboo rods that make these cages up, so I'd imagine it's just very hard to watch live. It's not the easiest thing to watch on TV, but who knows, maybe this will surprise us. Randy Orton and Jinder Mahal definitely are 2 that can get in that ring and go. I'm not looking for any big, shocking surprises, though, in this one. I'm pretty sure Mahal will come out with the championship. From what I've seen, it looks like Randy Orton's going to be taking more time off soon. I don't know if he's filming another movie, just taking time off to be with his family or what it is, but I'm not thinking Mahal is going to drop the title just yet, which is great for Mahal. I mean, he is taking serious advantage of the opportunity he was given. He's making a tremendous heel champion, especially with the Singh brothers having his back and helping him hold on to that title. I think, my opinion, they need to let Jinder run with it for a little while, see how far he can take it. Let him hold it until at least SummerSlam, or hell, maybe even let him hold it until Survivor Series. Who knows? Some other matches going on. Of course, we got the Usos and the New Day again for the tag team titles. John Cena and Rusev both coming back a couple weeks ago on the 4th of July on SmackDown, and those 2 are in a flag match, which haven't seen one of those in a long time. So that should be interesting. I mean, Cena and Rusev have always put on decent matches, so I don't think that one's going to disappoint. And then we've got interesting, a 5-way match for #1 contendership for the Women's Championship for SummerSlam. And that match, we've got Charlotte, Becky Lynch, Lana, Natalya, and Tamina. I'm not sure about this one. I know they've been trying to make Lana look, fairly strong lately, even though she's lost her matches against Naomi. It wouldn't surprise me too much to see her come out on top in this one, because it looks like they're trying to give her a bit of a push to, get her into that mix in the women's division on SmackDown. But I think more than likely you will probably see Charlotte come out the winner in this one, just because she hasn't had a super strong showing since she went to SmackDown, and I think she needs that boost. If not Charlotte, then I would definitely say Becky Lynch. I think they're the top 2 picks to win this one, and more than likely, I would say whoever does win this will probably end up being the women's champion after SummerSlam. Another interesting match, I think, could be one that could steal the show is Shinsuke Nakamura and Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin, of course, is Mr. Money in the Bank for SmackDown, and him and Nakamura have been going back and forth the last few weeks. So I think this could be a pretty good match because, of course, they're both real hard-hitting, no-nonsense kind of guys inside the ring. And so that's probably the match I'm looking forward to the most, other than AJ Styles and Kevin Owens. Of course, I think pretty much everybody knows by now AJ Styles won the United States Championship on a house show, which is rare these days. You don't see title changes that aren't televised that much anymore. So I'm thinking the rematch between these 2, I mean, it's AJ Styles and Kevin Owens. It doesn't matter what type of match it is. It's going to be fun to watch just because of the 2 men that are in it. Some other news coming out of Global Force is the Global Force Unified World Champion, Alberto El Patron, is actually indefinitely suspended because of an incident that happened at an airport with Paige. Apparently they got into some kind of conflict, and I guess the investigation is ongoing, quote unquote, to find out, exactly what happened. Of course, most sports nowadays have a policy of any type of domestic violence allegations. It's an immediate suspension until the investigation is completed. So, according to Paige on her Twitter account, she was the one that was detained for domestic violence, but no charges were filed, nothing like that. So I guess we'll have to wait and see if that's the case. I'm sure the suspension will be lifted, and Alberto will be back in the ring without any issues. So we'll just have to see how that one plays out. WWE, of course, started the Mae Young Classic Women's Tournament over this past weekend. They broadcast on Facebook Live introducing all the competitors. Definitely some familiar faces in this one that I was very happy to see there, namely Serena Deeb. Of course, she hasn't been in WWE for quite a few years. She was part of CM Punk's Straight Edge Society. Probably don't recognize her with hair because Punk shaved her head, but she's definitely one that can go in that ring, and I think it's really cool to see her back in a WWE ring. So we'll have to see how far she goes in the tournament. A couple other names that are familiar to TNA fans, I'm sure, is Mia Yim. Wrestled in TNA for quite a while as Jade. She was originally part of the Dollhouse faction there. And then another one, Marty Bell, who was also a member of the Dollhouse faction there. So both of them are part of the tournament, which is cool because they're, both of them are very capable in the ring. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how far they go in the tournament as well. Another interesting addition to the Mae Young Classic is, I believe her name is Shayna Baszler, if I'm pronouncing it right. Forgive me if I'm not. Who is part of the Four Horsewomen MMA group, which of course includes Ronda Rousey, and apparently Ronda Rousey was at the tapings for the Mae Young Classic along with the other two of the Horsewomen from MMA, of course supporting their stablemate there. Something interesting though, when Shayna was making her way down to the ring for one of her matches, in the crowd was, of course, the Four Horsewomen of NXT. Well, not all four, but Bayley, Charlotte, and Becky Lynch, and supposedly they had Sasha Banks on FaceTime as well. Of course, they are known as the Four Horsewomen of NXT. They're all baby faces at the moment, so they can't all be seen together like that. So it'll be... I'm very curious to see how WWE is going to play this one out, because I know they've been wanting to get Ronda Rousey for a very long time. They've got one of the Four Horsewomen in this Mae Young tournament, and they, made it very, obvious. Had the little stare down between Four Horsewomen of MMA and the Four Horsewomen of NXT. If there could be some type of agreement reached there, this is something that they could build for quite a while. Obviously, it doesn't have to be a weekly thing, but this is definitely an opening that if they're able to take advantage of it, I mean, that would be an 8-woman tag team match that I think anybody would pay good money to see, because of course the Four Horsewomen of MMA can all kick ass, and the Four Horsewomen of NXT are the ones that this whole women's revolution in WWE was built around. So we're going to be keeping a very close eye on this one. I'm hoping, that would definitely be a WrestleMania worthy matchup if they can make it happen. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see where that goes. But the main thing I wanted to talk about today was the pay-per-view situation in WWE. Personally, I think it's gotten a little bit out of hand. There are way too many pay-per-views. It's become so diluted, and it's just, pay-per-views just don't seem important or special anymore like they used to way back when. I mean, WWE started off with one. It was WrestleMania, that was it. Then they added SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, and it was the Big Four for so many years. And then I think it's pretty much when they started the whole In Your House thing back in the early 90s, that's when it just became completely saturated, and you're having like at least one a month. And now we're up to, there were 15 pay-per-views in 2016. There are 14 scheduled for 2017, and that's not even including the NXT takeovers. So, I mean, you're potentially looking at close to 20 pay-per-views, special events, whatever you want to call them. And when you have that many in a 12-month period, they're no longer all that special. Unfortunately, WrestleMania included. It's just kind of like, okay, it's another episode of a wrestling show. I mean, it's not... they don't have the build-up anymore. It used to be the pay-per-view was every 2 to 3 months, and you had all that time to build these rivalries, and the pay-per-view was the big payoff. Or, you could drag a rivalry out even longer. Okay, the pay-per-view, it didn't get resolved. We'll drag it out for another 2 or 3 months, and the next pay-per-view would be the big payoff. And it just was you were able to tell such a better story and get more fans were able to get more invested in what was going on with the storylines and with the wrestlers. And I think that's been lost just because I don't know if it's the fans' attention spans have gotten shorter, or WWE is just trying to squeeze as much money as they can. Which of course, I mean, it's a business; they're in it to make money. Let's not beat around the bush about that. But I mean, I think the sheer number of pay-per-views that are being held is just diminishing the point of them, which is, that's supposed to be like the big payoff, the special event, the one that everybody gets excited about. And I don't think that many people get super excited for pay-per-views anymore. I mean, when you're having one basically every 2 weeks, it's not really anything special anymore. And I mean, I definitely have my opinions about it. What I would love to see is take it back to the big four, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and add 2 more. That's it. You have 6 pay-per-views a year. And the 2 that I think should be added is, number 1, you should bring back the King of the Ring tournament, and keep it in June, as it always used to be, and make it about more than just winning the King of the Ring tournament, okay, and the guy gets to wear a crown around for a year. I mean, that is a bit lame in this day and age, but you make it have some more significance than that. For instance, the Royal Rumble. It's not just about winning the Royal Rumble. The Royal Rumble winner gets a title shot at WrestleMania, the biggest show of the year. Well, how about the King of the Ring winner gets a title shot at SummerSlam, the second biggest show of the year? Make it significant, make it important, and start of a new rivalry. And you've got 2 months to build on that. You've got from June until August to tell the story, build it up between these 2 guys, and make that match special. And then the second pay-per-view that I think they need to keep, it's already there, is Money in the Bank. Make every pay-per-view have some sort of title implication. And since the women's championship has become so much more prominent on the last year, 2 years, you put the women on the same level as the men. If you have a King of the Ring tournament, have a Queen of the Ring tournament. So the winner of the women's tournament gets a title shot at whichever women's champion they want at SummerSlam. Winner of the men's tournament gets a title shot at whichever men's championship they want at SummerSlam. Same thing with the Royal Rumble. I mean, between NXT, the women that they brought in for this Mae Young Classic, and the women that are already on Raw and SmackDown, you've got enough to make at least a 20-woman Royal Rumble match. Why not? I mean, I'm sure, knowing WWE, they'd probably try to shorten it and compress it a little bit, so make it 20 women instead of 30, because I don't think they have 30 on the roster. And instead of every 2 minutes coming down to the ring, make it every 1 minute. But give them that match. The women that are in WWE today are more than capable of pulling that off. And I think the fans would get behind it. It'd be something new, something different, something fresh, and it would bring even more significance to the women's championship. And of course, the winner of that women's Royal Rumble gets the women's title match at WrestleMania. Same thing as I said with King of the Ring or Queen of the Ring. They get the title shot at SummerSlam. And as far as Survivor Series, take it back to the 4-on-4 and the 5-on-5 or the 10-on-10 tag team matches. I mean, Survivor Series, when it first came into being, was my favorite pay-per-view because I loved seeing what kind of teams were going to get put together. I love seeing those 5-on-5 matches. And you could have an entire 3-hour-long pay-per-view with 5 matches on it because it's elimination style. You have to have at least 5 pinfalls for a match to end. You can pull off a 3-hour pay-per-view and have only 5 matches on it if you're doing it that style. And make it just about the Survivor Series matches. Forget the title matches or anything like that in there. Take it back to what it was. I know that's when I enjoyed it the most. I think that's when most people enjoyed it the most. Now it's, just another pay-per-view. I know the last couple of years they've been trying to bring back the traditional 5-on-5 matches, so I'm hoping they continue with that. Of course, WrestleMania, they always make it a huge spectacle. The production and things like that is definitely, not lacking. What's lacking is I'm not even going to say match quality. What's lacking is the storytelling, the build-up, and the significance of the matches going on. It's like the only match, honestly, that I've been super invested in the last few years is whoever The Undertaker's wrestling, because The Undertaker is a story unto himself. But, apparently it still hasn't been confirmed, but by all accounts, he's pretty much retired, so that part of WrestleMania is gone. So they need to do something to build these pay-per-views back up, make them special again, and I think the way to do it is you scale them back. You go to a 6 pay-per-view per year format, you keep the big 4, you keep Money in the Bank, and you bring back the King of the Ring, and every single pay-per-view has implications for the World Championship. Forget these brand-exclusive pay-per-views. I don't think they work. Like the Great Balls of Fire, yes, it was a good show, but let's be honest about it, it was just an extended edition of SmackDown. And that's pretty much all it is, or I'm sorry, not even SmackDown. It was a Sunday episode of Raw. Battleground, I think, is going to be a decent pay-per-view, but it's just going to be an extended edition of SmackDown. There's nothing special or significant about them anymore, and that was really the point of them when they first started with the whole pay-per-view idea. When Vince McMahon first put together the very first WrestleMania, the idea was it was going to be the biggest, most special wrestling show of all time, and at that point it was. And so many other people tried to duplicate it, and it didn't work. Look at the Super Clash that was trying to be put on by World Class and the AWA and Continental Wrestling Federation. It didn't work because it was 3 companies trying to work together who could not get along. But Vince McMahon, WWE, obviously the kings of pay-per-view, but I think I don't know if they've necessarily lost sight of what a pay-per-view is supposed to be all about. I mean, like I said, obviously I know it's a business. They want to make as much money as they possibly can for all their investors, because WWE is a publicly traded company, so they do have to answer to their board of directors, of course. And if they're not making the money, well, then there's going to be problems. But, I think they need to remember that without the fans, they're not going to have any kind of business at all. And I think the fans are even getting a little tired of, okay, it's Sunday, there must be a pay-per-view on. And especially, I have to wonder how much they're actually making from pay-per-view buys. Because, of course, every pay-per-view is available on WWE Network as part of the subscription. So how many people are actually shelling out the $40, $50 to watch it on their the regular cable station? So I don't know. I just think I think a lot of fans would come back, because I do know a lot of fans have kind of tuned out from WWE just because it has become so watered down. And I think they would win a lot of fans back if they kind of, not take it back completely to an old school 80s type format, but just scale it back a little bit. I think I think it's just too much is the only way that I can put it. 6 pay-per-views a year. Of course, continue with the NXT takeovers, because those 9 times out of 10 are better than the corresponding pay-per-view that they're booked with. So definitely keep those. But again, I would keep the NXT pay-per-views to 4 a year, with the keep them with the big 4. So you have an NXT takeover before the Rumble, before WrestleMania, before SummerSlam, before Survivor Series, and leave it at that. That would definitely give NXT a chance to build their stars, build their programs, build their stories, build into these big payoffs in the takeover specials. So that's just my opinion. I'm curious to know what some of you guys think. I'd love to see any kind of comments. or anything like that. Maybe you agree with me. Maybe you think I'm totally nuts. Maybe you want more pay-per-views. God only knows why, but hey, whatever. So that's pretty much all I got for this week. I'll definitely be back next week, going back through Battleground and seeing how SummerSlam is shaping up. So until then, hope you guys enjoy, and I'll talk to you soon.